Excuse me, Your Worship, you're live.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, Council, it's 5 p.m. and I will call our meeting of Monday, July 26, 2021 to order. For the public's interest, this is our last meeting in July, and we will be downing tools for the month of August in terms of meetings and public processes. We will certainly still be very busy at Town Hall, but our next meeting will be our SIC meeting in the beginning of September. And so I will start then by reading our land acknowledgement. For more than 15,000 years, the First Nations walked upon and cared for the lands we now call home. Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe, and many others who cared for their families and communities the way we now seek to care for ours. The town of Collingwood acknowledges the Lake Simcoe Nottawasaga Treaty of 1818 and respects all of the nation-to-nation agreements that have formed relationships with the original inhabitants of Turtle Island. The reality of our shared history, the current contributions of Indigenous people within our community, and seeks to continue empowering expressions of pride amongst all of the diverse stakeholders in this area. We seek to do better, to continue to recognize, learn, and grow in friendship and community, nation to nation. I will look for a motion for the adoption of the agenda, and the motion reads that the content of the council agenda for July 26, 2021 be adopted as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Madigan and Councillor Doherty. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest tonight? Councillor Jeffrey, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. On the in-camera agenda, I think staff had carried it forward for me, so I've not submitted anything further in writing, but 4.2, I will be recusing myself on the Culbert Estate as I am a board member of one of the principals in that matter.
Thank you for that. And I will look to Clerk Almus just to make sure that the written form was carried forward from our last meeting.
Yes, it was, Your Worship.
Good, thank you. Any other declarations tonight, Council? Seeing none, if you find yourself in that position as we move forward, please let us know in the general nature thereof, and we'll deal with it. And this brings us to item 4, which is adoption of the minutes. And we have 4.1. The resolution reads that the minutes of the council meeting held July 19 be approved as presented. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Madigan and Councillor McLeod. Are there any errors or omissions, Council? Seeing none, and I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. 4.2. Is there any business arising from our previous minutes, Council? And that takes us then to community announcements. And I will look first then to Councillor McLeod.
Thank you. And I have a short one today, which is a happy 35th anniversary to the Lawn Bowling Club of Collingwood. I am certain all our my fellow councillors saw the email earlier today, and just a little thumbnail sketch of their first of their history. Started in 1986, raised $54,000, I think it was, from the community to create that pitch. And as of this year, they have 21 additional members, which basically doubles their membership from last year, which of course was a COVID year and difficult. And they are doing a bunch of fun stuff for the remainder of the summer, including a council game, which I'm looking forward to doing some butt kicking. And we'll see how that goes in September. But a happy 35th anniversary. And if you're looking for something safe to do outdoors, lawn bowling might be it. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And yes, I look forward. I have participated in 1 or 2 of the lawn bowling, and that is a deceptively difficult sport. And that pitch was jealously guarded when we were looking at Central Park. It is a gem in our community. So congratulations to them for all their great work and for their expansion and for being ambassadors for our community. I think they hosted 21 visitors to town the other day. So all very good. And we will go next to Councillor Madigan.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. And I actually look forward to, I think I finished second 3 years in a row behind Councillor Lloyd. So he's gone. So maybe I have a shot. Marion, let it go. Just give me 1 year, sister. Early reminder about the Collingwood Blues Golf Tournament, August 27th and 28th, 2 days. at Cranberry. Organize your foursome and register at bluesgolftournament.ca. It's a great cause. They're great ambassadors, as Mayor Saunderson said about the lawn bowling for our community. And it's a really good time. And hopefully they sell out both days.
Thank you, Councillor Madigan. Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing this evening.
Councillor Berman.
Thank you, Mayor Saunderson. I have nothing other. Thanks.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Nothing this evening. Thank you, Mayor Saunderson.
Councillor Hamlin.
Nothing for me, thanks.
All right. Well, I would just like to give a shout out to the Canadian Olympians that are over in Tokyo. While they may be toiling in obscurity, it is not an obscure event for them. They've been getting ready for 5 years, and we are out of the gates with great showings, both with medals and unexpected personal bests. So stay tuned, everyone. I think it's going to be a great Olympics for Canada, and it's always fun to watch the drama unfold. And that brings us then to item 6, which is our interim control bylaw updates. And 6.1 is the introduction to the the water treatment plant consulting engineering firm. And Director Slama is joining us from afar to take us through that. Go ahead, Peggy, please.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I am working remotely this evening, so I'll leave my video off. Please give me a hand motion if you aren't hearing me or if my connection is going in or out, please. So thank you very much. I'm very pleased this evening to be introducing our very capable team that will be looking after the water treatment plant expansion project, which we'll be working on for the next 4.5 years. So presenting this evening, we have Manager of Environmental Services, Heather McGinnity. We have our project engineer for our water and wastewater capital projects, Ken Caden. He will be the lead for the town on this project. From our consultant team, we have project manager and lead engineer Brian Saheli and assistant project manager Laura Alvarez. With us this evening from the ACOM part of the team, and also project director Mike Ainley from Ainley and Associates. So we're very excited to start the design of this critical project, and council and our community can be assured that we have an expert team leading this project, and their collaboration with our key stakeholders will result in a world-class facility that is delivered on an accelerated schedule, and one that our community can be proud of. So with that, I will ask that the presentation, I don't see the presentation up. Thank you, Stephanie. And just a second here. Okay, next slide, please. So our current water treatment plant was commissioned in 1999, and it was one of the first water treatment plants to use submerged ultrafiltration membranes as a treatment process. The need for this facility was prompted by cases of cryptosporidium in Collingwood. At the time, the water treatment was chlorine only, which by itself will not provide adequate disinfection of viruses. The use of ultrafiltration was revolutionary, and Collingwood's water treatment plant became a training facility for the water treatment industry in Ontario and Canada. The facility was designed to meet future 2030 needs, as is typical for treatment plant construction. The submerged membrane technology allowed for great flexibility to expand capacity by dropping more membranes into the tankage. At the time of construction, the town of New Tecumseh expressed an interest in obtaining drinking water, and Collingwood had the ability to use their full capacity. Collingwood entered into a water supply agreement and have sold water to New Tecumseh since 2000. Collingwood also provides water to Town of the Blue Mountains, and Essa and Clearview receive water from the regional pipeline. Next slide, please. The need for increased water supply capacity has been on the town's radar for 10 to 15 years, and staff have been taking the steps necessary to expand the water treatment plant in line with industry best practice. The expansion has been included in our water rates and our 10-year capital budget plan. A municipal Class EA was triggered when the 3-year average of water supply needs exceeded 80%, and that was realized in 2019. And that was when or 2018, and we started our Class EA in 2019. The municipal Class EA was completed in the fall of 2020, and staff started to prepare for the next step, which was retaining engineering services for design once the cost sharing between municipalities was resolved. Next slide, please. In April, Council directed staff to finalize and issue the RFP for engineering services for the design and construction administration of the water treatment plant expansion in advance of not having a formal water supply agreement with New Tecumseh due to the escalating development pressures in Collingwood and emerging challenges with achieving the full rated capacity during winter months. The RFP was issued on May 14th, 2021, and following an evaluation of 4 excellent submissions from leading water resources engineering firms, the project was awarded to the AECOM Ainley team. This team brings intimate knowledge of this project through their involvement with the design and construction of the existing plant and leading the town through the Class EA process for the required expansion. Tonight, staff will provide council with an overview of our project objective, vision, and scope, and we'll introduce you to the engineering team that will be helping us achieve these objectives over the next 4 to 5 years. Next slide, please. So with this, I will pass the baton on to Manager McGinnity.
Manager McGinnity, it's all yours.
There we go. Sorry, just trying to get myself off mute. Thank you very much. So the primary objective of our water treatment plant expansion project is to expand and upgrade our existing treatment plant to produce drinking water that meets or exceeds the provincial drinking water quality standards and will service anticipated growth in Collingwood and our customer municipalities. This current project is the first of 2 planned water treatment plant expansion phases, where phase 1 will increase the treatment plant capacity from approximately 31.1 megaliters per day to 51.8 megaliters per day by the end of 2025. Phase 2 will increase our capacity from 51.8 megaliters per day to approximately 101 megaliters per day by 2044. This project will also include an upgrade to the existing disinfection process as part of phase 1 to help resolve concerns about drinking water supply capacity limitations during winter months until our full treatment plant expansion can be completed. Staff acknowledge the schedule for the commissioning of the expanded treatment plant is very important, and we are working with the AECOM Ainley team to provide innovative solutions to accelerate this project delivery. However, we also recognize that we cannot compromise the quality of the treatment plant to resolve a short-term water supply challenge, as this community and our customer municipalities will be relying on this facility to provide safe and reliable drinking water for many years to come. Next slide. As we start on this significant project for the town, we want to make sure we learn from the past to ensure we are ready to tackle what the future may bring, whether it is increased regulatory requirements around drinking water treatment, changes in water supply needs either in town or at our customer municipalities, or the challenges with climate change. We have seen all of these factors come into play since the water treatment plant was commissioned in 1999, and we want to make sure this new facility is better equipped to allow us to adapt to these challenges. Next slide. As we define the vision for this project, we feel it is important that we consider the Collingwood Community-Based Strategic Plan vision statements, that we are an inclusive community. We have a strong sense of civic pride. We value our waterfront interconnections to the town. And we have a strong cultural and built heritage that focuses on our historical connection with the water and the Indigenous people, and that we are progressive, accountable, and sustainable. Next slide. The Collingwood Water Treatment Plant is located on prime waterfront property in town, in the midst of residential properties adjacent to the popular Sunset Point Park and Beach and the town's trail network. And what does this mean? It's going to be seen by everyone. So not only does this facility need to provide long-lasting, safe, reliable drinking water for our community, it will become part of the community and what people think of when they come to Collingwood. Our vision is to make this facility resilient to anticipated climate change impacts, such as storm surge and potential changes in raw water quality, but also take advantage of its location to help increase awareness of the importance of our water resources, not only in the past, but in the present and future. We also see this project as an opportunity to collaborate with the Saugeen Ojibwe First Nation to ensure their values are represented and protected. And now I introduce our project manager, Ken Caden, to walk you through some of the technical aspects of this project and how it will be delivered. So next slide.
Thank you, Heather. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm also attending very remotely, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. At its crux, this project is really an expansion of our ability to produce clean drinking water, and we're looking to increase our capacity to do so by approximately 60%. This project will include, primarily new membranes, larger pumps, and other larger equipment, and a chance for us to replace some aging infrastructure with more efficient technologies. At the same time, we're planning to provide enhanced disinfection. Currently, as we've mentioned, there's only the ability to chlorinate the water. With the new plant, we'll have the addition of UV disinfection, which gives us a more robust disinfection capability, as well as reduce the amount of chemical that we need to add to our water for disinfection. Next slide, please. And as we're all aware, climate change is becoming more than just a buzzword. We're seeing real impacts on the infrastructure and our shoreline due to extreme weather events. We're all aware of the damage that occurred in the last year and that the town experienced, and the cost to repair and rectify that. Water quality is also potentially becoming an issue, as water quality may diminish in the future as a result of pollution and warmer lake temperatures. Extreme weather events are becoming the norm. Droughts, storms, and even those tornado warnings we're all getting used to seeing. The location of our plant and a lot of our infrastructure is at risk in the flood line, and we have an opportunity with this project to build a facility that adapts to these changes and also look at opportunities to reduce our environmental impact with energy efficient treatment technologies and green building solutions. Next slide, please. We need to design and plan for the future. While this project is a big undertaking, it's only phase one. We need to include plans for the future as part of this design and to set us up for success later. Space for future tanks, pipe connections, equipment additions, and the replacement with larger units all need to be factored into this design. We also need to plan for changes to treatment requirements. Water treatment technology is an ever-changing, and water quality of our raw water quality is also changing. New treatment requirements mandated by the ministry and treatment technologies are constantly emerging. We need to be able to adapt to those to handle things like pharmaceuticals, microplastics, and increased organics in the raw water. Next slide, please. So as part of this project, stakeholder communication and consultation will be extremely important to the success of the project. The list of stakeholders is long, and we plan multiple workshops and public information centers and direct communication with groups like the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, neighbors of the site, Sunset Point Park users, Collingwood residents and ratepayers, the customer municipalities, developers, operations staff, and the rest of the town. Despite our best efforts during the early stages of the pandemic, we had admittedly less engagement from the public and neighbors than we would have liked to see during the EA. We had great communication with Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, and this has already started up again as part of this project. We've been in contact with them early, and they're eager and excited to be part of the process. Our operators are already involved and will continue to be included in the design process, as their input is invaluable to make sure we end up with a well-run plant. Next slide, please. And at this point, I'm assuming that it'll be Brian speaking on behalf of AECOM. I'll introduce Brian to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Sihili. I'm the project manager as well as technical lead from the AECOM Ainley team. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for allowing AECOM and Ainley to be part of this project. We know you had other good submissions and other great consultants, and we're truly humbled to be part of this project. It's going to be a very exciting one for everyone. So thank you very much, first of all. So just a little bit about AECOM. We're a global infrastructure consulting firm, and we specialize in water treatment, wastewater treatment, many different municipal engineering, as well as industrial. Myself and my team, we specialize specifically in water treatment and wastewater treatment. Myself personally, I specialize in water treatment. At AECOM, we have around 47,000 staff globally and approximately 1,400 staff in Ontario. We have our partner Ainley, and we thought it was very important that we can have a local partner on this project. And everyone knows Ainley, the local engineering firm founded in 1961 in Collingwood. Their head office is a short walk to the water treatment facility. And one of the benefits of having a local partner in reality is that they understand the local stakeholders, and they definitely have a personal investment in the town's growth. So they care a lot, and we do care as well. So we thought that giving you an AECOM Ainley team would be a great value for the town. Can you go to the next slide, please? So we were asked to present what sort of projects we have worked on, and if you look at all these projects, we have a Lawn Park water treatment plant in the region of Peel in the city of Mississauga. It's a 500 megaliters per day plant, and we worked on that over 3 contracts. Worth over $200 million when you combine all 3 contracts, from membranes to UV disinfection to generator to administration facilities, chemicals, residual management. We actually won a lot of awards for this project, and you see on the bottom left screen that picture. That's the UV disinfection concept that we're looking at for your facility. That was one of the largest municipal retrofitted UV oxidation facility in North America, and we're looking at disinfection as well as UV oxidation there. We have the Burloak water purification plant. That was a $55 million project in the region of Halton, and as well that has membranes and that also has UV. So that's a similar concept where we're looking at your facility. There's other projects we've worked on in the GTA, from Hamilton, Woodward Water Treatment Plant. We have Lakeview Water Treatment Plant in Mississauga. Right now, we're working on the Whitby water supply plant. We're looking at a $160 million new facility, looking at membranes, UV. It's on a shoreline as well. We have the exact same shoreline partner on that project as how we proposed for your project, which is Shoreline Engineering. So that would be a great similar project where we all learn from each other to give both areas an iconic view and learn from them. And the top right is one of the projects I'm currently working on personally. And just like you who do not have UV disinfection in your water treatment plant, the City of Toronto has 4 very large water treatment plants, and AECOM is doing the very first installation of UV in one of the treatment plants. So they're starting off with 1, and then they're going to do the next 3. So the good news, just like you guys put in UV for the first time, the City of Toronto is also putting UV for the first time in the water treatment plants, and AECOM is the consultant. And I myself, I am also the project manager for that one. So between that and Collingwood, that's my support basically to the 2 projects. Can you go to the next slide, please? So here's some lessons learned, and they're not hardcore technical lessons learned, because once you have the technical capabilities, it becomes a softer skills. And you'll probably be fascinated with some of them. The first one is successful projects are those that we work as a team. And we truly believe that all projects have issues. Every project have issues. It's just that you always have to work through them together, openly communicate, and respect each other. And once we do that on this project, we're going to do really well. And I'll be honest with everyone here. We've been working with your team for the past few weeks since we got the award, and everybody has been absolutely fantastic working together. Everyone is openly communicating. We all have great chemistry. Everyone cares. You can see everybody cares about accelerating the schedule, making decisions, and moving forward. And that already is a positive sign. Transferring risk doesn't mean we're out of the woods. Where everybody loves to transfer risk, but one person's problem means everyone's problem. So we always have to remember that. It's a retrofit project. We're building a water treatment facility on site. We're breaking down buildings. We're incorporating processes while we maintain a live water treatment plant. So there's a lot of construction sequencing activities required. It's a very complex project, and we gotta be careful that we can always supply water at all times. We need to listen to and take care of our operations and maintenance staff. So a lot of times in the old days, we just design stuff and say, here you go, you better accept it. But we stopped doing that over 15 years ago. We listened to our operation maintenance staff. They're the ones who are operating the facilities. So we need to listen to them. We need to incorporate any special requests that we think is instrumental, because they're the ones who are going to work and there every day. We need to mentor our young talent for a successful future. And I'm going to challenge the town with that line item. So the whole world, we see a lot of people retiring, and especially technical specialists and even factories. You hear about it all across North America. The next 5 years, people are retiring. What's going to happen 20 years from now when all our seasoned, experienced specialists are retiring? So this is something that we've been talking about on this project. I have the assistant project manager. She's a young person who came out to university a few years ago. I'm going to be mentoring her on this project. And the goal is just like how Mike Ainley did the project over 20 years ago, and now he transferred the puck to me. Now the intent is that I can transfer the puck to her, and she's going to be working closely with me on this project. And in 20, 30 years from now, you're going to have someone who knows the history that occurred on this project from today moving forward. So I do challenge the town that we should always keep thinking about the young talent, and that we need to be mentoring new people. And the last one is we need to laugh and have fun. If we're having a project and we all leaving the meeting and disliking it, and we're dredging going to meetings, you have the wrong team, you have the wrong chemistry. So you always need to laugh, have fun, and crack some jokes. And once you do that, people enjoy the project, and positive energy creates more positive energy. So note I didn't talk about anything technical, but these principles, if we follow these, I think we'll have a greater successful projects. And I'm sure you guys said the same thing about your council meetings as well, right? These all apply to your council meetings, right, Mayor Saunderson? Am I correct?
Yeah, we work on that.
All right, can we go to the next slide, please? So this is we completed during the EA a rendering of the existing facility, and you can see the treatment plant there, and you can see the surrounding area. And if you look on the right side, you can see right now how your shoreline looks. So you got a pristine shoreline and you have dirt there. So that's where the new water treatment building is gonna be. And it'll be nice to put something iconic there that people will love and walk through, and tourists come and visit. And my family absolutely loved visiting Collinwood. So they were so excited that we won this project. That was probably my favorite project I ever won for my wife. It's like a present to her. Now we can go to Collinwood very often. But if we go to the next slide, so if you see that area, we show this in our proposal, a concept of how your facility will look on that prestige shoreline. And you know, it's funny because when we showed this to one of your purchasing person, Rose, after we won it, the first thing she said, that's a water treatment plant. And she could believe that. And it's funny how in the public eye, when you see something looking beautiful, everyone believes your water must be great. So we're looking at iconic building looking there. And if we do a zoom in, can you go to the next slide, please? You can see that nice, beautiful building, that wood color. The green roof, you can see that pedestrian area. We're looking at educational boards. We're looking at fountains potentially for pets and for persons, and resting areas. And hopefully people would want to go to this area and check it out and have nice walks. And you have a nice iconic area for this facility. So that's the original vision that we had for this project. And we're open to changes and modifications. We're not set in stone with it. So over the next few months, we're going to have quite a bit of architectural workshops where we discuss pluses or minus, what you like, don't like, what do we need to change. But that's basically a starting concept of how your facility would look. So Mayor, what do you think? Do you like that building?
Looks great, Brian. We look forward to getting this going.
Awesome. So let's go to the next slide. And I don't know, did you get the videos to open? So we have 2 videos that we can show you. They're just over 90 seconds. So there's a walk by and a flyby video, and you can see how that area will look. So can you please play the videos? Sorry, looks like the connection is not great there. So we also showed diversity in this video. So this video here is the walk by video, and then we'll show you a flyby video so you can see a look from out in the waters. And can we show the flyby video, please? So we're gonna start off the same way, and then we're gonna fly out in the water, and you can see a different angle from out in the water. So that's about it. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. I also have Mike Ainley from Ainley and Associates, and I also have Laura Alvarez, my assistant PM, who you'd be your future rising staff for your town in 30, 40 years from now after we pass the puck. If you have questions.
Thank you very much, Brian, and staff for that presentation. Just going to check in with staff. Heather, are we finished with the presentation? Okay, great. Council, any questions or comments on that presentation? Councilor Doherty.
Thank you, and through you to Mr. Saheli. I'm very impressed by the design. It is a beautiful design, quite an impressive building, and I must admit that the green roof was a very good and appropriate addition to that building. I'm wondering, with that much space on the roof, has there been any consideration to the addition of any kind of renewable energy infrastructure? I guess I'm thinking primarily solar that could assist in powering the plant.
So that's an option. We haven't closed that road. We actually right now studying putting 3.5 megawatt of solar power on the Toronto Island, but they have a lot of field there, which is a little different. We can look at solar on top. It wouldn't power much of the plant, given that we don't have that much footprint. But we can look at an option of that, and we have to see to make sure there's no reflection going with the condo buildings across from the plant as well. That's something we have to look at, but it's open for discussion. Yeah, the road is not closed on that. So that's something we can review for sure.
Hello, Councillor.
Yes, actually, I'm curious. In a water treatment facility like that, you have water under pressure at several phases of the process. And I'm wondering, has it ever been considered to generate hydro power through those processes?
On a water treatment facility, I haven't seen that. On a wastewater where you're going by gravity and you're able to generate energy, yes, but not on water treatment. The more we break energy in the water, the more head loss we bring in the water, the more we have to pump energy. So it's a push-pull concept. You want to gain, but now you have to put in. So I personally have never seen it or heard of it in water treatment itself.
Thank you.
I love how you're thinking we could probably invent and patent something together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got Councillor Hamlin and Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to say thank you for the design and your presentation. You've actually piqued my interest and made it look like something we can be excited about and proud when it's ultimately finished in our community, as opposed to a headache, which I think some of us have been feeling the project would be. I do have one question. That is, you mentioned an education center as part of the project. Could you please explain that?
So we showed in the picture some educational boards, and it's open for discussion. So where we have the pathway where the benches are, we could have some educational boards, and we can talk about the water cycle. Maybe that's a great partnership with the Saugeen Obizwe Nation, where we talk about the water cycle. Where does the water come from? How does it goes back in? And you can add on stuff about the town, whatever we want. We could talk about how the water treatment process is within the plant. So it's to do an educational board concept at that area by the benches. So it's more of educational boards, but we could change the design. If you guys have someone in the town who thinks of these things for the town, let them be part of the team. We're going to have a lot of workshops with stakeholders and architectural workshops. And we're we're not set in stone with anything. So we're open for ideas to give you what you want. So this is your project at the end of the day. What you want, we give you. So
Okay,
if any interest, let us know, and we'll have partners. I'll only request as much as possible. Let's get everybody involved early, because when it becomes later on, it becomes a little late to potentially change stuff. We can always change stuff, but it's always a low cost for everybody if we do changes earlier. So whoever wants to get involved, bring them along. We'll be at the table. And as I tell everyone, we had a major workshop last week, Wednesday, and I encourage negativity. I encourage debates, because everyone gets to hear what everyone's thinking. But then together we make a decision together as a team. And then 2-3 years from now, when people ask, why did we do this? We all knew why, and we all came to a consensus. So love healthy discussions early in a project with lots of changes, negativity, bring it on. That's what we encourage.
Okay, well, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I have lots of ideas, so.
Awesome.
So thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, and thank you for coming to show us what you've got so far. It's amazing how quickly it's come together. My question is about the people who currently use the property where the new or addition to the plant are going to go. I spend a fair amount of time down there with my dog, and there's always cars and trucks parked right at the east end of that parking lot. Some of them are anglers, and some of them are just having a coffee watching the water. We are going to lose that parking lot, aren't we?
Yeah, where we're building the plant, you are going to use the parking lot, but there's a parking lot on the northwest side, I believe, as well. But on the east side of the plant, you are going to use that parking lot.
That's what I just wanted to be sure what I was seeing. We're not going to, thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, are we going to push out into the bay a little further, or is the footprint with the trail and so on the same as it is currently in your vision?
So the intent right now is not to grow. We do not believe, and not the NVCA, not Wasaga Conservation Authority, that they would like that. We're going to have a few workshops with them. So if you want us to consider that as an option, we're looking at start having some workshops with everybody in September, October. And if that's an option, then we should bring it to the table as well with the Saugeen and Obizwe Nation as well. So for now, the intent was not to go out into the water, but if that's something you're interested with and you want us to look closely with, we need to have those discussions with site plan approvals as well as NVCA and the SUN as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like a parking lot? I meant to ask you, a parking garage, a 3-story at the waterfront?
I just know that there are some very dedicated and enthusiastic anglers who use that area, and I am sure that our Director of Parks and Recreation is beavering away at finding an alternate spot for them to get their trout and salmon.
Understood. So one thing as well is that we could even talk about putting bicycle racks to encourage people, if you're losing their parking, they can bring the bikes and bike it. So these are all great ideas, and that's renewable energy, right? Bicycles. So it's all open for discussion for everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. Council, any other questions or comments? That was a fantastic presentation. So thank you to staff and Mr. Ainley and Mr. Sahaley. This is a very, very big project for our community, and we are looking forward to it for the discussions as we clarify. And then once we've set that direction, we look forward to the construction and getting it going. And we're particularly anxious that we find some way to retrofit the existing plant to help to get rid of our summer-winter differential while the plant is in construction. So we're very much hoping that can become a reality as well.
Awesome. I was looking forward for questions from you, Mayor.
Well, you answered all of my questions, Mr. Sahaley, and we're looking forward to working together with you and the learning experience. I particularly loved your 6 rules of operation, and I think that helps a very healthy discourse as we get moving together. And I'm looking forward to getting the community involved and getting shovels in the ground and getting working.
Agreed, and look forward to work with everyone as a team. But thanks to everyone. I mean, we're humble with the win, but thank you very much. We appreciate it. Look forward to work with everyone. And my wife is more than happy than ever.
Well, we're looking forward to that. Bring her by Town Hall. We'll give her a tour. We got a great historical district. All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
And with that
Thank you, Your Worship.
With that being said, then we'll move on to item 6.2, which is also a very important topic on the water capacity, and that is the update on the water capacity and land use planning study. And I'll pass it over to CAO Skinner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think you've received the best part of the update tonight, but I will make sure that there's a couple other items that fall into our normal update that I want to keep everyone apprised of. And there is a updated presentation that should be available. Okay, great. So as everyone knows, on the second slide, we were asked by council to provide weekly updates each week that council meets. And this deck, per normal, now includes all of the items either in this deck or periodically as they are updated for council. Next slide. So you're all aware of the situation. So we have a water supply that is safe and available. And as Mr. Sahaley mentioned, we're hoping to keep it safe and available through some complex staging right up to and beyond 2025. So soon as council was aware of the difficult situation of constrained water, they, as you know, you all took, and as I hope that the public is aware, you took a proactive and transparent approach to seek further capacity like that being built and capacity from other municipalities, and to manage that which is remaining as one of our very highest priorities. So one of the first decisions was to look at what our maximum chlorine could be for disinfection. And we do have several years of growth available, but not enough to get it at the current rate to the 2025 earliest date of plant expansion. So we do have an interim control bylaw that has temporarily and transparently paused most development so that we can grow as a complete community. And you'll see a brief update today on a number of exceptions to that interim control bylaw and where we are compared to other years with our construction amount. We're starting a land use policy study that I will update you on, and as well work that doesn't use more water, such as most residential renovations and additions can continue. And if you're looking to do something like that, you can always call the building department and they will make sure you have all the information you need, or look on the town's website where we have quite a few questions and answers set up, as well as some information. Next slide, please. So first I'm going to talk about water capacity. So you did get your introduction to our wonderful engineering consultants. And one of the first things they're doing, as I mentioned, is looking at disinfection options for the current plant. We also have an independent third party being hired to review chlorine addition and whether we've maximized the benefits that we can get from that. And we continue to appreciate our local engineering community who've supported us throughout this endeavor. Next slide, 6, please. So we are continuing to work on the agreement principles at the staff level with New Tecumseth, and they are purchasing quite a lot of water from Collingwood going forward from that new plant. And there's a lot of interrelated considerations that we're working on with them. And we've also been in a conversation with other councils where we currently supply water, Town of Blue Mountains and New Tecumseth, to support sharing our water constraints and reductions or in supply so that we can all move together to our renewed supply in around 2025. Slide 7. And there is a regional pipeline that's held by the New Tecumseth Improvement Society, NTIS, that Collingwood has an 18.5% interest in. And we are actively working with New Tecumseth and Simcoe County and calling to a meeting to discuss opportunities for this pipeline for any of the municipalities along it going forward. So we're attempting to schedule that through the middle of August and just confirming the date right now. Next slide, please. This slide, number 8, hasn't changed from last week. So we've awarded the engineering design, as you heard, and we're diving into completing the preliminary design with them. Slide 9. This has been updated. This is one of the updates today. And on the far right of this chart, you'll see that with the exemptions to the interim control bylaw that council approved last Monday night, 1 week ago tonight, we added the committed SDUs of about 316 new single development unit equivalents of water. So the remaining SDUs are now shown in bold on the right sort of lower part of the chart. We have 547 remaining and available today of SDUs. And if you measure that same amount in meters cubed per day, we have 494 meters cubed per day available. That is with the winter constraints that we're currently experiencing. So if other water were to come online, for example, through an interim treatment process or another option, or we were to delve into our factor of safety as we get closer to the completion of the plant, that remaining amount of water could potentially be increased, but right now that's where we're sitting. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk to you now about the planning side of things, the land use planning policy study. Next slide. So this is something I've been promising as the other key update today, which is our Meridian planning consultants suggesting on the time frame, which we've reviewed with them in some detail with interim director Glenn and his staff. So we are looking at a number of steps that would lead to decisions in January, and I think they'll be thoughtful and well-considered decisions. And you'll see these at the bottom of the slide was our previous, all the steps that we had told council and the public we needed to go through. So we're now in the process of carrying out the study, including the public consultation, and updating, that will be followed by updating the land use tools. So this more detailed chart that's at the top of the slide are those two steps. I just wanted to show you the connection between what you'd been shown before and how this further updates the timing. So the major steps that are in this chart, and if anyone needs to see that offline afterwards so that the pictures are the wording is bigger. I'd be happy to send you a copy. But it includes reviewing the town documentation, what's been done in other areas as best practices now through the end of September, a workshop with town staff that will occur in August, a workshop with council, likely to be small groups of council or individual council members so that the consultant is very aware of your considerations in September, preparations of several drafts, meetings with the development community, which could include our engineering community, meeting with the public and the ability for people to put things in their ideas online as well as through other methods as we go into the later fall, and recommendations presented to council in November, and then public meetings following that relate to some of the planning tools we may wish to update. So we'll keep you up to date as this rolls out through the fall, and we'll be watching this schedule very closely. And I do believe it is realistic, and we'll be able to stick to that and make sure that we're done on time. Finally, you did approve on the next slide the exemptions report. And I just want to emphasize to those who didn't have their exemption approved through this these interim exemptions, those just get us through the study period. They're not intended to get us to the new plant in 2025. Once the study that you just saw the schedule for is complete and council's approval of the recommendations, further water can be allocated or managed according to the findings of the study. So this isn't the end of the story. Next slide, please. And we also, Interim Director Glenn and his staff put together a map so you could see what was happening, not only in a list, but across town. So the lighter colored dots were the initial approvals. The green, darker green, foresty green dots are the ones that were approved last Monday night. And the remaining red dots are the applications that have not yet been approved at this time, but for which developers or individuals indicated they were looking for a water allocation going forward. We won't lose track of those applications. So just to reemphasize on the next slide, if you have been granted an exemption from the interim control bylaw, your application can continue through the planning process and you can get a building permit. If you have any questions, call the planning department. If you have not been granted an exemption, your planning application can continue to be processed, but we won't be bringing the planning decisions in front of council until an exemption is granted or we complete the ICBL and the planning study. So a final statistic before I end is that we are doing absolutely everything, next slide please, we can to transparently and fairly balance water allocation and continue with a prudent building of a complete community. And we are on track or ahead of where we were last year for building and the resulting employment and other benefits to the community. So as of July 16th, you'll see a number of things such as the building permit applications received at 541. Last year in 2020 at this time, we were at 549. So we are, you'll see for the other items listed on this slide at or potentially even ahead of where we were last year at this time. So while being prudent, things still are moving and being built in Collingwood. And thank you. You can go to the next slide, but that's the end of the update. And I'll turn it back to you, Mayor Saunderson.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor, are there any questions or comments on the presentation, either the water capacity update or the land use planning study? Go ahead, Councillor McLeod.
Thank you. This is actually one that I've had for a little while and I've forgotten to ask it, and I finally am remembering. CAO Skinner, could you take me to slide number 9, please, which is the chart of available SDUs and meters cubed per day. My question is about the two numbers at the very bottom right-hand side and what it is that they actually represent. Is that including the factor of safety? Is that why those numbers are the numbers they are?
Go ahead, CAO.
The bottom two rows.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can answer those, but I do wonder if Manager McGinnity is still on the line. She is maybe well suited to answer this question.
Manager McGinnity.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes. So because we're limited by our winter treatment capacity right now, the SDUs that CAO Skinner has been referring to in terms of the remaining of 547 and max day demand remaining of 494, that's based on our winter treatment capacity and winter water supply demands. But once we can resolve the winter disinfection limitations, we're hoping to be able to shift the conversation to the bottom, which is our summer, which is based on the total rated treatment plant capacity and max day summer demands. So that will, once we resolve that winter disinfection limitation, those are the numbers that we'd be looking at in terms of available drinking water capacity and available SDUs. Does that help?
That more than helps. It completely clarifies for me.
Okay, good.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Manager McGinnity. Any follow-up, Councillor? Okay. All right, unless there are any other questions on the water update. Seeing none, thank you for that update and for the clarification. It's good to see that those numbers in terms of our building permits and our construction activity in our community. So while we have paused development to some extent, we certainly have not frozen it. So it's good to see those jobs out there and getting people back to work. That brings us now to item 7, which is reports, minutes of other committees and boards. And the resolution reads that the minutes of the following boards be hereby received and recommendations contained therein be approved. And item 7.1 is the Police Service Board minutes of June 14, 2021. So I'll have that moved by PSB Chair Jeffrey and seconded by, who's going to second that for me? Councillor Berman. All right, are there any questions or comments before I call the vote, Council? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried unanimously. And welcome, Deputy Mayor. I know you joined earlier, but I'm sure the minutes will indicate when you got here. And this brings us to item 8 then, which is the Standing Committee report. And it's the report of Development and Operations Services Standing Committee meeting of July 12th, 2021. And the resolution reads as follows. The council received the Development and Operations Services Standing Committee report from its meeting held July 12, 2021, and hereby approve the recommendations contained within the report as presented. 1, P 2021-21, request for a potential review of materials and design guidance in the Downtown Collingwood Heritage Conservation District Plan, and the recommendation of that meeting was to defer the report to the September 13, 2021 Development and Operations Services Standing Committee meeting to allow, I think, the BIA to review and comment on those on that report. Item number 2 is P 2021-22, authorization bylaw to execute a site plan control agreement and to enact and pass a deeming bylaw for Waterstone townhouses, and the recommendation is to enact a deeming bylaw and an authorization bylaw to execute a site plan control agreement for the Waterstone townhouses development. Item 3 is T 2021-13, requested relief of development charge fees, 223 Oak Street, and the recommendation that the request to waive the development charge fees not be granted. Next item is no parking requests, Robertson Street and Maple Street. And the recommendation is that no parking requests for Robertson Street and Maple Street be referred to staff for consideration during the next parking bylaw review. And those items were all passed unanimously at the Standing Committee. And I will have that moved by Chair Hamlin and seconded by Vice Chair Jeffrey. Are there any items, Council, that you would like to pull for a change in direction? That is to change the recommendation. Otherwise, I'll call the vote and then I will allow you to pull items to ask questions relating to that item. Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote then. All in favor? And that is passed unanimously. Thank you. Are there any items that people would like to pull from that item for comment or question? Councillor McLeod.
Thank you. Staff report T 2021-13, please.
Okay, go ahead.
And I've had a conversation with Executive Director Peg, just to inform council of this and for transparency purposes, about perhaps doing an audit of our communications regarding demolition and other permits, and our website as well, just to be absolutely sure that that lay people as well as builders and planners and those who are more familiar with that part of the world are clear about what the expectations are and the parameters that are around their work.
Okay, I will look to CAO Skinner. I know there's conversation and I think it's been acknowledged, but I will look to Sonia. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I would like to direct to Executive Director Peg, who I believe to be on the line. She may wish to comment. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome, Executive Director Peg. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor McLeod, understanding the unfortunate situation that Mr. Nabowski finds himself in, staff have been discussing ways to ensure that the DC bylaw information is highly visible to the public. This includes adding wording and content to the website in areas where this messaging could potentially be more visible. I have been working with Treasurer Quinlan and also with our CBO, who recently returned from vacation, for clarity on exactly how we might best portray this information in those areas. And I've also flagged this for communications and customer service staff. So as they do regularly review the pages on the website, this will be something that's top of mind for them as they look at potential continuous improvement opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director. Any follow-up, Councillor?
Not at all. I'm thrilled with the attention that's been given to this matter.
Thank you. Council, any other questions on items? Seeing none, then we will move on to 8.2, which are the bylaws. And bylaw number 1 is that, or the resolution is that bylaw number 2021-54, being a bylaw to designate a plan of subdivision commonly known as Waterstone Townhomes or part thereof, not to be a registered plan of subdivision for the purposes of subsection 50 sub 3 of the Planning Act, be enacted and passed this 26th day of July. And I'll have that moved by Chair Hamlin and seconded by Vice Chair Jeffrey. Are there any questions or comments, Council? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.2.2, that bylaw number 2021-55, being a bylaw to execute a site plan control agreement for the development located on land municipally addressed as 31 and 39 Dawson Drive and 11-299, 11-313, and 11-317 Highway 26, Collingwood, between Dawson Drive, Collingwood Holdings, Inc., and the Corporation of the Town of Collingwood be enacted and passed this 26th day of July 2021. And that will also be moved by Chair Hamlin and seconded by Vice Chair Jeffrey. Are there any questions or comments, Council? Seeing none, I'll call the vote then. All in favor? And that is passed unanimously as well. And this brings us then to item 9, which is the Healing Forest feasibility request. And this is Councillor Doherty's motion. So I will pass it to you, Councillor Doherty.
Thank you, Mayor. I will read the motion and then I would be very happy to provide more explanation or answer questions. Whereas the National Healing Forest Initiative has been established to honor our Indigenous predecessors and to remember residential school victims and survivors, as well as murdered and missing Indigenous women, in keeping with the Truth and Reconciliation Report. And whereas the National Healing Forest Initiative is an invitation to both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities, institutions, and individuals to create green spaces across Canada. And whereas the Town of Collingwood has made a strong commitment to honor the Indigenous keepers of our lands, and more widely to diversity and acceptance of all people in our community, as symbolized by the erection of the Alwyn Gathering Place. Therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to report back during the 2022 budget deliberations on the feasibility of creating a healing forest in the town of Collingwood.
Thank you, Councillor Doherty. I'm going to look for a seconder. I've got Councillor Berman, and I will then pass it back to you, Councillor Doherty, to give some background.
Thank you. As I explained briefly last week, this was an initiative that emerged from the original Walk of Reconciliation in 2015. It is an invitation to both Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. And the idea is for all members of a community or institutions or individuals to participate in the creation of such a space, either an existing space or a brand new space within any community. There's really 5 benefits that are cited for the healing forest. One is that it is a very active and intentional act of healing and reconciliation. It connects people to nature, it builds community, it helps with climate change, and it helps teach about reconciliation and the residential school system. This is certainly very much in keeping with this community's commitment to recognizing our Indigenous keepers of our lands and our further recognition of diversity in our community. And it also can be a very good use of the very generous Di Lorenzo tree donation, which we received last year, that could be used to enhance the green space that we finally determined to be the one.
Good. Thank you for that, Councillor. Council, any questions or comments? Seeing none, then I'm going to call the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Doherty.
Thank you.
This brings us to item 10, bylaws. We have 2. The first 10.1, the bylaw number 2021-56 being a bylaw to appoint an integrity commissioner for the corporation of the town of Collingwood be enacted and passes 26th day of July 2021. I think before I look for a mover and a seconder, I'm going to ask Clerk Almus to give some background. There are 2 bylaws here, but they are interconnected, and perhaps Sarah, you could just take council through the genesis of these and what we would be accomplishing.
Certainly. Thank you, Your Worship. So this is based on Council's authorization to proceed with the RFP for Integrity Commissioner, Lobbyist Registrar function, and Fairness Monitor Services. So I'm going to be providing the Fairness Monitor Services update shortly, so it kind of ties in with that discussion. But just as a reference, we had undertaken some market research prior to issuing the RFP, and it was identified to us that because of the specific experience and procurement expertise that's required for a Fairness Monitor service, that would be best to separate it from the Integrity and Lobbyist Lobbyist Registrar Services. So we did not receive any joint submissions for all 3 services, but we did receive 2 submissions for the Lobbyist Registrar and the Integrity Commissioner Services. Unfortunately, the one submission, they did not have any previous experience with IC or Lobbyist Registrar Services. We are very happy with Principal's Integrity's experience and qualifications in this area. They also are a Lobbyist Registrar for at least 2 other municipalities within the province, as well as represent, I believe, close to 50 municipalities for Integrity Commissioner Services. We've kept them as 2 separate bylaws this evening in the event that we monitor this and reevaluate in the future.
Thank you, Sarah. Council, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I have a couple for the clerk. Principals is currently serving as the designated integrity commissioner from the county of Simcoe, and the county of Simcoe pays the retainer, and then we pay for their services. By bringing them on board as our own integrity commissioner, how does that change the contractual relationship?
Certainly, through your worship. The contract through the county of Simcoe was expected to expire this year. Since we were adding the lobbyist registrar function to this role, we felt it was best to go out. Again, we were originally anticipating having one accountability officer for all three functions. At this point, we'll be having two accountability officers for the separated functions. The town of Collingwood would be responsible for paying a $1,000 annual retainer for the services with Principals Integrity. And then there is an hourly rate based on the services that we utilized. So I can confirm in 2020, the total amount spent on Integrity Commissioner services was less than $2,000. So again, it's dependent on how that function is utilized. There will be additional costs associated with the lobbyist registrar functions. However, our manager of accountability, procurement, and risk management will be looking after all the administrative components, and basically Principals Integrity acting as a lobbyist registrar would just be providing the interpretation and potential training opportunities should we require them to provide those outside of what's provided by staff.
Thank you. And just by way of follow-up, Sarah, since we are talking about the lobbyist registry, previously we had our accountability and transparency officer doing that internally, and now we're going outside. What's the rationale for that?
The rationale for that was it was a recommendation of Associate Chief Justice Morocco in the Collingwood Judicial Inquiry recommendations that person actually be an independent party from the town of Collingwood rather than a staff member.
So the thrust here really is we're retaining a third-party integrity commissioner directly, as well as a third-party lobbyist registrar.
That's correct.
Good. Thank you very much. I need to get a mover and a seconder for that to get it on the floor. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Berman and Councillor Jeffrey. Any questions or comments, council? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote then. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. And then the next bylaw relates to the lobbyist registrar. And it reads that bylaw number 2021-57 being a bylaw to appoint a lobbyist registrar for the corporation of the town of Collingwood be enacted and passed this 26th day of July 2021. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Berman and Councillor Doherty. I'll call, and any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote then. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to item 11, notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion tonight, council? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 12, which is council business. 12.1, older deferred business. Is there any older deferred business, council? Deputy Mayor.
This could qualify as old deferred or other, so you take your pick. But last week I had mentioned that I would possibly bring forward a notice of motion as it relates to tiered parking. I had an opportunity to have a good conversation with the CAO about a number of things that are actively in play right now. And given the timing of tonight, the fact that we're not meeting in August, touch wood, and that we would have an opportunity to perhaps revisit this in August, maybe September, with a lens to bringing something forward with the 2022 budget. So anyway, I just wanted to add those comments. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Is there any other older deferred business, council? Seeing none, that brings us to item 12.2, which is other business, and 12.2.1, the Fairness Monitor Services Update. And I'll look to Clerk on this.
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. So I've shared some of my preamble comments further to the staff report that was approved by Council on February 16th. So Fairness Monitor program provides client departments, suppliers, council, and taxpayers with an independent assurance that public procurement processes are conducted in a fair and open, transparent way. The program protects the interests of clients and taxpayers by identifying and resolving fairness issues as they arise. Dealing with issues early makes the process fairer and avoids possible costly after the fact resolutions. Independent third-party fairness monitors would also be responsible to observe all or part of the procurement business activity. Based on their observations, they provide impartial opinions on the fairness of monitored activities throughout the process and provide a final report prior to the award of a contract. The provider can also provide procurement advice as may be required. This is valuable, especially as we'll be reviewing the purchasing bylaw that will be presented to council later this year, and maybe requiring their services in any sort of review that's undertaken, particularly with regards to the judicial inquiry recommendations. As indicated, after conducting the initial market research prior to issuing the RFPs for a joint accountability officer for the 3 services as previously discussed, it was thought that fairness monitors have a specific expertise in procurement and the applicable legislation and trade agreements relating to purchasing. Therefore, bidders could provide submissions for all 3 services or solely for fairness monitor services. Separating the RFPs actually worked in our favor. We received 5 excellent qualified submissions for fairness monitor services, and the successful proponent was over $100 less per hour than the IC and fairness monitor, IC and lobbyist registrar services. We did not receive any bid from a firm or individual that wanted to bid on all 3 services. The evaluation team included finance, clerk services with oversight by the CAO. The successful proponent was RFP Solutions, whom have significant experience with Fairness Monitor and Fairness Commissioner services. As recommended by the Collingwood Judicial Inquiry, the use of services for significant procurements will be at the discretion of the CAO. An upcoming opportunity being considered is a future potential redevelopment of the grain terminals and working with a potential P3 advisor. Staff are looking forward to this additional accountability oversight for significant procurements and implementing the recommendations as provided by Associate Chief Justice Frank Morocco.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions or comments for the clerk on this? Seeing none, it's certainly very exciting. And it's an important step forward with the recommendations of Justice Morocco. As we know, procurement was a critical piece of the both transactions back in 2012. So having this type of facility in place and access to ensure our residents that procurement is being done properly is a very positive step. So we're looking forward to seeing this in action. So thank you for that update, Clerk Thomas. And before I move on to other matters, I think Clerk Thomas, you were going to give a brief update as well on the Johnson Trust status.
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. So a brief update to council and the public. As you may be aware, we had entered into an operating agreement with the Rotary Club after 40 years of their operating the Rotary Johnson Trust apartments on Birch Street. They have advised us at this point that they will be, they have provided notice of termination of the operating agreement in accordance with the terms contained in that that agreement. So we staff are looking right now, working together, putting together a team to undertake the appropriate property administration and management until the Affordable Housing Task Force has an opportunity to make their recommendations to council on the outcomes of the potential for those properties.
Thank you, Sarah. Council, any questions or comments on that? Thank you, and we look forward to that and to hearing back from our Housing Task Force and to see what opportunities exist there. Council, are there any other items of other business? Councillor Hamlin.
I just have one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to perhaps our CAO, but I'll leave it to her to decide. The town of the Blue Mountains has given public notice that it is embarking on an updated master transportation plan. And I know our town also is looking at an updated traffic plan as well. And I'm just wondering if our staff will be getting involved with this adjoining municipalities' review of their transportation network, given all of our roads that run into each other. Thank you.
CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I see Director Slama on the line, and this would be a good note for her to update. I do believe her staff has already been engaged. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Slama?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Hamlin. Yes, the town of Blue Mountains is keeping us informed of their study as a key stakeholder, and we have indicated that we are interested in being part of their study. And Manager Velick has already attended the initial meeting with town of the Blue Mountains. So, yep, we will be keeping abreast of that study.
Very good. Thank you, Director. Any follow-up, Councillor Hamlin?
No, thank you.
All right. Last call for any other business. Seeing none, then we're going to move on to our in-camera item. I'll read the resolution. Whereas the clerk hereby concurs the reasons for the in-camera session have been duly reviewed and considered, and the matters are authorized under the exception provisions to conduct a closed session in accordance with the Municipal Act prior to proceeding into closed session. Therefore, be it resolved that this council proceeds in camera in order to address a matter pertaining to 1, the security of the property of the town or local board, which is item A. 2, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposal of land for town or local board purposes, item B. 3, the receiving of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and that includes items A and B. And 4, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, and that relates to item A. And the items for discussion are A, water agreement negotiation updates, and B, the Culvert Estate. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Berman and Councillor Madigan. And I'll call the vote then. All in favor? That is carried unanimously. And I'm just going to look to staff. I'm not sure we're going to have a rise and report today, so I thought I would just update our people in the audience or any reporters that plan. It does not look like we will have any rise and report today. So that being the case, you can stay if you'd like, but we will be signing off to go in camera. It's now 23 minutes after 6, and we will reconvene at 23 minutes or 22 minutes to 7. So there's time for a bio break, and we will be using this same connection, I think, clerk. So we will see all those who are involved in the in-camera portion in 10 minutes.
Excuse me, Your Worship, you're now live.
Thanks, Stephanie. All right, Council, we are back in open session, so I will look for a motion. Be it resolved that Council rise from in camera and return to public session at 8:10 p.m. I get a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Madigan, Councillor Hamlin, all in favor? Thank you very much. So that brings us to our confirming bylaw, and the resolution reads that bylaw number 2021-58 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held July 26, 2021 be enacted and passed this 26th day of July 2021. Can I get a move and a seconder, please? Councillor McLeod and Councillor Madigan, and I will call the vote. All in favor? Thank you very much, council. That was carried unanimously, and that brings us to the end of our July agenda. So we have August off. So enjoy your time off, because we'll be hitting the ground running in September. It's been a very extremely busy 6 months, and it's going to be followed by a very busy 5 months. So enjoy the time off, and thank you very much. And I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Jeffrey, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.